Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mark McGinn, and today I'm looking like a British dandy. I have bright red shoes, maroon pants, a black long sleeve t-shirt with a mock collar, and a black beret. So welcome to First UU. We're glad to have you here and hope that you can stay for coffee or the tea and conversation after the service, as well as the friendly feast, which is after the service today, if possible. Our chalice lighter today is Holton. Our words for chalice lighting this morning are from Reverend Daniel C. Cantor. Arriving on these shores of hope, abandon your cynicism, your despair, your short view of humanity. See beyond the horizon of setbacks and defeat. Let us together enter worship as if it was a new matter, a new day, a new chance at life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
And once again, good morning. My name is Becca Reynolds, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only Becca, there's a bunch of us. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a redhead. I'm wearing a baby blue dress. It's once again time for a moving meditation. Participation is voluntary. You can do this where you're seated, but as I'm asking, as we do the hand motions and the body motions of moving meditation, please be aware of the people next to you, and please don't backhand the person next to you in the zeal of doing the meditation correctly. Just relax. If we have any young people that wanted to come up, and at the moment I don't think we do, we'll bring up some volunteers later to drop the stones for joys and concerns. Okay. In your seats, get yourselves comfortable. This is a meditation. This is a centering exercise. Take a nice deep breath. Jiggle your fingers. I want you to feel the energy of all of your fellow church mates here in the room with you. Today's journey is going to take us to the very, very, very large. You can do this. Don't hit the person next to you. And down to the very, very, very small. And back again. Out in the universe, there are great big suns. They're like atomic reactors. They're fusing hydrogen and helium together. In addition to doing that and putting out warmth and light and gravity, they're also chemical furnaces. Small things, tiny things. They're making new elements. Constantly creating new elements. Now, when a star ages and is ready to die, what happens? It explodes, and all of those chemicals are scattered throughout the universe. It's the natural process of the life of a sun, the life of a star. Eventually, all of those newly formed chemicals, nice and small, those chemicals will begin to collect with dust and other debris, and they will form nebula, gas clouds. And eventually those gas clouds will continue to coalesce and coalesce some more, and eventually new suns and new planets, not quite so big, new suns and new planets will come from those nebula, and they will form star systems, just like ours. Takes millions of years, but it happens. Now, on these new worlds, if things are right, if there's just the right amount of warmth, if there's just the right amount of gravity, if there's just the right concentration of all of those different chemicals, mostly carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, phosphorus, etc., if there's enough of those chemicals on that new planet, along with some water and a little pressure, we might put some of those chemicals together. And they might form little chains of molecules. Because, atoms like to get together. They have this affinity for each other. And maybe eventually some of them will start forming long chains, proteins. I told you we're going to go from the small to the big and back again. And sometimes we might even get the best collection of proteins of them all, DNA. The 3D printer template of life. Now, once we have life start up on a planet like this, we start small again. We start with cells, little singular cellular organisms. But eventually those cells start to get a little different. They diversify, and they get a little longer living and maybe do a couple different activities. When cells with a like or similar function come together, they form tissues. When tissues come together, they form organs. When organs get together, they form systems. Take a deep breath and let it out. Your respiratory system, your cardiovascular system, your integumentary system. Can't help it, I'm a nurse. The systems eventually get together and form organisms or people. We are all connected from the big to the tiny. We are intrinsically each part of each other, from the atoms from those stars to the DNA in all of our cells. We couldn't get away from each other if we tried, because you're part of me and I'm part of you, and we're all part of each other. We are all part of each other. Our unity and our diversity is so much a part of us, again, we couldn't escape one another. It is woven into every cell of our body, every strand of our DNA. Our unity and our diversity is woven into the very fabric of our lives and our reality. What the universe has by design put together, let no politician put asunder. Deep breath. Thank you. Biddy, that's all, folks.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Colin. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a member of the Pastoral Care Circle. As we focus on the theme, I think I'm missing part of the script. As a community, we share joys and concerns to keep connected. Slips of paper are available at the greeters table for those in the sanctuary to use for joys and concerns. During the week, you can send those joys and concerns by email to pastoralcare@springfielduu.org or by leaving a voicemail on the church phone. We'd love to hear your voice. 417 883-3922. And if you're on Zoom, please use the chat box now for sharing your joys and concerns. We will include all of these joys and concerns in the members' email on Tuesday. Today, we'll honor each joy or concern with a stone dropped in a shared bowl of water, representing the ripple effect in all our lives. We love to invite the children to come up and do this, but there was something in the air today, and I could not bring my children up here because of all their energy. So if anyone would like to come forward and help us drop the stones, we would love to have you. Several of us would be great, as you'd like. And now, as we begin this time of sharing, know that though we are in multiple physical spaces, we are together in beloved community. To begin, we hold in love all of us, those present and those absent. We drop a stone for our church community. Thank you so much. Sherry shares a concern for Holly Graves in the loss of her husband, D.W. We drop a stone of deep mourning. From Becca, I am so excited for next weekend for my sister and brother-in-law's visit from Wisconsin. We drop a stone of joy. Um, from Reverend Michelle, Adam Tobacco remains in the ICU at Mercy. His recovery is very, very slow, but moving in a positive direction. He will still be hospitalized for many weeks, and a full recovery could take a year. Cards, emails, and fuzzy socks are appreciated. We drop a stone of solidarity with Adam. Jesse shares, please keep me in mind as I start the final 2 weeks of my spring semester and rejoice with me as I look forward to my sister and my husband coming. We drop a stone of joy. The Crespos share a joy. Thank you, Dacia and the Pastoral Care Circle for their attention and cards. Rebecca is doing well and almost ready to get back out there. We drop a stone of joy. We honor the complex and heartbreaking struggles of our world. We drop a stone for all who are impacted. And in closing, for those joys and concerns that remain unspoken, we drop a stone. Thank you all so much. May we hold each of these joys and concerns in our hearts and minds. May our community of love ease sorrow and boost celebration. And now let's join together in 1 minute of shared silence, followed by Spirit of Life.
stirrings of compassion blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning, everyone. Getting out of a chair is one of the hardest things I do all day. My name is Mike. I'm an 82-year-old or 82-year young white male. I've got my vest on today to cover the ketchup stain that's right there. I've been asked to read the word of invitation. Reverend Terry Dennehy offers these words as our invitation to imagination this week. Imagine we have arrived. Imagine the lush river cannot swallow us or drown out the voices of our hearts. We have come to these eagle-nested shores to celebrate with the drums of dancing feet. We have come a gathering of wings, arising out of the hard shells of loneliness and into the streets. Out of the violence and the rush of the trains and the drives between, out of the pain in the waiting rooms and the classrooms, the boardrooms and the bedrooms. We are birthing into light. We are holding our palms to the sky, awake and amazed that we can trust the hush, the hum, the hands we fall into like waves. We are listening to the sighs, to the aches of our histories, to the silences pinched beneath skins. And we are learning how to speak our own names, soft and slow now, turned over and over in our mouths until they shine on our tongues like silver pearls, until something inside us is a sail, is gratitude, billowing and free. Our hymn of the month of May is Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. It's 301 in the gray hymnal. The words will also be available on the screens. You may stand or remain seated to join in the singing.
Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly. Over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky. Children ask the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky. All are born and all shall die. Life's the time, life in between. To follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky. Hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high. Spirits joining as we fly to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
Hello, I'm Christopher Landorf, and I am wearing a black T-shirt. Horace Silver is the name of my current jazz obsession. And I'm here to, I guess, tell you about this week in UU history. On May 2nd, and this is in Springfield. So on May 2nd, 1953, in response to an April 1953 invitation from Monroe Husbands, 26 people gathered in Springfield, Missouri to learn more about Unitarianism. A steering committee was formed and regular meetings of the Unitarian Fellowship of Springfield commenced. Friday, May 2nd marks the 72nd anniversary of this organizational gathering. We're all very, very appreciative and grateful. Offering our gifts to support the work of building inclusive and just communities is just one of the many ways that we live into justice and equity together. Some of us have much to give and some have little, and together it is all enough. We are enough to work together for a world where every human can live into their best and most authentic self. If electronic giving is your preferred method, or if you are on Zoom, virtual giving options are available via our website, springfielduu.org. The offertory is All You Need to Do Is Imagine by John Prescott, formed by the Springfield UU Quartet. Because there's only 4 of us today.
Good morning. I am Reverend Michelle Scott Huffman. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the minister here at First UU, and I am a sort of average height woman with short, spiky, salt and pepper hair. Today's plaid is brought to you by the colors navy and teal. And lucky for you, I'm a better preacher than AV coordinator. So, we gather this morning when we start to think about imagination in a world that too often feels like it's unraveling. Chaos all over the place right now. Everywhere we look, it seems there is chaos. Where we don't see chaos, we see silence in the face of suffering, systems of greed wrapped in gospel words. It's a lot, and it's not new. And in case it weren't enough, the universe threw a couple tornadoes our way this week. So if you, like me, are feeling a little bit disjointed and discombobulated, don't feel bad. And when you find yourself another week from now, still with a little bit of brain fog, let's remember that there's a lot of trauma happening around us, and that seeps into our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. But today we are called to something new, to imagination. It's not a new thing. Prophets in all kinds of times and places throughout the years have held on to imagination in times when others could not see that things could be different. The prophets of old knew that empires rise and fall, that human hearts harden, that temples crack and fall to dust, and still they spoke. Today, I'm lifting up specifically the prophets that we call the Hebrew prophets in what Christians call the Old Testament. There's a lot of them, and they have a lot to say. I'm not going to say too much about that today, but one of my favorite teachers of the Hebrew Bible, and specifically Hebrew prophets, was my Old Testament professor, John Brocky. And John Brocky's Old Testament professor was Walter Brueggemann. So I tend to think of schools of theological thought in this sort of family tree kind of lineage. And so my Hebrew Bible grandfather is Walter Brueggemann. Walter Brueggemann was one of our time's great interpreters of ancient prophets. And he reminds us the task is reframing so that we can re-experience the social realities that are right in front of us from a different angle. Reframing, reimagining, that's the sacred task that we come to this month and in this moment. Not denial, not distraction, but prophetic imagination. The kind that calls forth lament and fierce love. The kind that sees what is and dares to dream what could be. Brueggemann teaches that the prophets were not mere fortune tellers or moral nags. They were poets of disruption, artists of liberation. They spoke from within covenantal traditions of justice and mercy, but without credentials or pedigree. They rose up out of the wilderness and the margins, bearing unsettling truths in one hand and unshakable hope in the other. And friends, I want you to hear that again. Unsettling truths in one hand and unshakable hope in the other, because so often we hold one or the other. But the work of prophetic imagination is to hold them both in balance and intention. Brueggemann writes, the prophets imagined their contemporary world differently according to that old tradition. They saw through the illusions of empire. They saw suffering hidden beneath slogans. They saw new life gestating even as the old world fell apart. Prophetic imagination then is not about predicting the future. It's about telling the truth so powerfully and poetically that we begin to see the present differently. and begin to live in a world of new realities. Brueggemann writes, the task of prophetic ministry is to nurture, nourish, and evoke a consciousness and perception alternative to the consciousness and perception of the dominant culture around us. Our culture is competent to implement almost anything and to imagine almost nothing, because imagination is a danger. Thus, every totalitarian regime is frightened of the artist. It is the vocation of the prophet to keep alive the ministry of imagination, to keep on conjuring and proposing futures alternative to the single one the king wants to urge as the only thinkable one. This is the power of prophetic imagination. It opens windows in a house where rulers have boarded up all the light. It invites us to imagine not just survival within the system, but alternatives beyond it. It is the thing that allows us to say we can burn that thing down because it doesn't serve anyone, and we believe that something can rise up in its place. Let's be honest, we are in one of those times now. A time when white Christian nationalism masquerades as faith. A time when books are banned and borders are walled. A time when transgender kids are targets and empathy is mocked as weakness or even toxic. A time when climate collapse feels not only possible, but probable. And in times like these, imagination can feel indulgent. But Brueggemann would say, no, imagination is resistance. It is precisely in moments of collapse that prophets arise. When the old world is vanishing and the new one feels too terrifying to name, imagination becomes holy work. Listen to the prophet Isaiah, who said, do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah speaking what he perceived to be the words of God in his time. Prophetic imagination says, even here, even now, even in the midst of all this chaos, something is being born. Something that we must nurture into new life, but the birthing will hurt. Brueggemann warns us our consumer culture wants to somehow narcoticize us, to settle in on things. But prophetic imagination will not let us settle. It picks at our illusions with the edge of a poem, with the colors of a painting, with the words spoken between friends. They disrupt our deadening comfort with the breath of holy longing. They sing us awake. Who are people in our history who have acted with prophetic imagination? You probably have some in your own mind. Who knows the name Claudette Colvin? Nobody. Claudette Colvin's contributions to the civil rights movement, specifically her refusal to give up her seat in Montgomery, Alabama, are often overshadowed by Rosa Parks' more famous act of defiance. This is primarily due to several factors, including Claudette's age. She was a teenager. Her social status, she was poor and unmarried, and the perception that she was not the ideal face for the movement. But Claudette Colvin didn't wait for permission to act prophetically. She didn't carry a title. She wasn't ordained by any council. She hadn't been vetted or credentialed or given a pulpit. She was 15 years old and full of the words of Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. She'd been studying them in school the very week she sat down and didn't get up. She later said it felt like they were sitting beside her on that Montgomery bus, whispering, "Now is the time." In that moment, the wisdom of the ancestors and the possibility of future collided in her spine, and she listened. That's the heartbeat of prophetic imagination. It's not just dreaming up something wild and new, it's listening deeply to old truths, to the voices behind you and beside you and within you, and then stepping forward to sing them into the present moment. Too often we think of imagination as detachment, as floating off into some wild future, leaving behind what's come before. But prophetic imagination is rooted. Rooted because its roots run deep. We can imagine something that is hopeful because people before us have made it through. Brueggemann reminds us the prophets rose up from the covenantal tradition. They weren't disconnected from it, that they were grounded in it. So even those of us who are a part of traditions, institutions, in spaces where the institution has lost its way, it is often the foundations that brought us there, that help us to imagine something new, to not cling too tightly to the life of an institution, but to dream into being the life of a people. The power of prophets, those who hold prophetic imagination, came not from novelty, but from fidelity to that which they loved and that which had called them. Their authority aligned with the deep story of justice and liberation that had already been told. When the prophet Isaiah says, "Do not remember the former things," he doesn't mean forget your past. He means don't get stuck in worshiping the form of the past. In the words of the Jewish people, don't enshrine the Exodus so tightly that you miss the new waters parting before you. So we remember the stories, but we don't fossilize them. We pray, if that's what we do with our ancestors, and then we act in their spirit, but in our moment. That's what Claudette did. That's what every prophet of old did. And that's what every ordinary prophet today must do. And that means you and me. So what might that look like for us right now? We live in a state and a country where cruelty is being codified, where diversity is being labeled as a threat, where fear is rising like floodwater and public trust eroding like shoreline. To live as a progressive faith community in such a time requires more than outrage. It requires imagination. The imagination to say a multicultural democracy is not naive, it is necessary. To say that trans people thriving is not dangerous, it is holy. To say that migrants and refugees are not invaders, they are our kin. To say that the planet is not a commodity, it is our relative. To say that a world where love wins is not fantasy, it is the deep truth of the universe waiting to be lived. It's easy to think that prophetic imagination belongs only to the giants, the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the Desmond Tutus, and the ancient poets who thundered from mountaintops. But Brueggemann reminds us the prophets were uncredentialed. They just rose up from the landscape, carrying the ache of the people and the poetry of God. You don't need to be famous to be prophetic. You don't need to be perfect to be imaginative. You just need to be rooted in love and bold enough to imagine it forward. So how do we practice this? In our own complex, courageous, and ultra-local experiences. First, we lament honestly. We don't skip over the grief. We name what's broken. We allow the ache of the world to touch us. Brueggemann reminds us that 1/3 of the Psalms are laments. If we cannot grieve, we cannot imagine something different. Second, we listen deeply, not just to the news, but to the poets. Because that's where the word of this day is coming from, to the ancestors, to the still small voice inside us, to our inner teacher. The world is loud with false certainties, but imagination begins in the quiet places. Third, we speak and act with creativity. Maybe it's writing a letter to the editor that tells a different story, organizing a community meal for people who have been left out, changing the way that we gather, how we worship, how we teach, how we build coalitions so that we live love not just in sentiment, but in structure. We're building new systems, new institutions, new spaces that are big enough for everyone. And fourth, we support one another. Prophetic imagination is not a solo sport. It's communal. It's a choir of improbable voices singing a new song. We need each other to keep imagining when the world says that's not realistic. It's hard when you're only one to push back against that, but when you're a group of a community of people who are refusing to give up hope, who are refusing to let go of imagination, when some people say that's not realistic, those of us who know that truth lies somewhere beyond what we live ourselves into, we can push back against that. So, beloveds, here is the call for us this month and every month to live love through the practice of imagination. Not escapism, not distraction, but deep, disruptive, grounded imagination soaked in the sacred. Let us remember Claudette on the bus. Let us remember the prophets in the desert. Let us remember our own ancestors, spiritual, familial, cultural, who dared to believe that a new world was possible and acted as if it was already arriving. And let us too rise up, uncredentialed and beloved, poets of a world we are just beginning to see. So when we go from this place, let us go rooted in the stories that have shaped us, reaching toward the world we dare to dream. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. The interlude this week, sorry, John surprised me, even though I know that John's playing. The interlude is Prelude in C minor by Chopin, performed by John.
Thank you, John. Our closing words are To Kindle New Fires in the World by Reverend Michelle Collins. Though the flame is extinguished, the embers of imagination remain. Carry them forward. Dream boldly, act with love, and kindle new fires in the world. Please, please remain for coffee, tea, conversation after service. And even if you didn't bring food, stay for the friendly feast. And I can give you a little tip. If you're relatively new to this church and you want to be beloved, help clean up, help tear down tables. I tell you, our kitchen volunteers, you will be beloved. You'll also get some good food. Our final hymn is I Am That Great and Fiery Force. It's number 27 in the gray hymnal. You're welcome to stand if you like, or you may remain standing after the hymn for our chalice extinguishing and unison ending words. And again, don't forget to stay around for the family feast.
I am that great and fiery force, sparkling in everything that lives, in shining of the river's course, in greening grass that glory gives. I shine in glitter on the seas, in burning sun, in moon and stars, in unseen wind, in verdant trees. I breathe within both near and far. And where I breathe there is no death, and meadows glow with beauty's rife. I am in all the Spirit's breath, the thundered word, for I am life.
We will now extinguish our personal and communal chalices before we end today with our unison going homewards. Well, that was brave. Our service here is ending. Our service to the world begins anew. Thank you. See you next week.